All right, joining me now is Sassan Ghahramani, CEO of SGH Macro Advisors. That's an advisory firm for hedge funds, money manager, and policymakers. He was also the FX trader, I should say the head trader at UBS, ran that desk over there. All right, you are 2 for 2, Sassan. You specifically said this week that the referendum would not happen.
Right.
You also said there would be a rate cut. All right, you're 2 for 2. What's going to happen tonight with the vote of confidence for Papandreou?
Thank you. Well, that one I'm not sure about. I can tell you what will happen after the vote of confidence. Either way, Papandreou is gone. So what's happening
really?
is
Either way?
Either way, Papandreou is gone. What happened over these last couple of days, culminating yesterday, was basically a deal behind closed doors where they gave Papandreou what we called an offer you can't refuse. And they said, look, either you leave ignominiously or we will support you in the vote of no confidence, but you step down immediately afterwards and allow for a caretaker government to take place. So that is the choice that was given Papandreou. Even having accepted that choice, there's no guarantee that he will survive the vote of no confidence. But let's say he survives the vote of no confidence, the deal is still that he's going to step down and Greece will be turned over onto a what they call a national unity government.
Well, and then what happens? Is that good news?
That is good news because inadvertently what has happened here is by Papandreou bringing things to a head, he has basically without expecting this to happen, sacrificed his own political career. But the price for that has been that the opposition party is now willing to cooperate with a transitional government if it comes into place, and show a more united front towards the EU and the IMF and the Troika and so on. And everybody is kind of on board saying that, look, our #1 priority is making sure that we get this next tranche, we get this next disbursement, get the $8 billion out of the EU IMF, and try to get the package to as quickly as we can.
Well, and the IMF said, hey, if you vote against austerity, guess what? No money. You can't blame them.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Merkel has really, after flailing for a long time, sort of found her mojo recently. First, when it came with negotiations with the banks, she played some pretty tough hardball with them to get them off the 21% to the 50% haircut, gave them an offer they couldn't refuse. Then when it came to Papandreou and this kind of surprise referendum, look, nobody wants to tell a democracy, hey, don't have a referendum. But this was a big spanner in the works, and Merkel and Sarkozy said, look, we're done with this. We can't take this anymore. We need certainty. Either you do this immediately or you're not going to get any money. And so they precipitated the fall of Papandreou. Quite frankly, I don't think they're very sorry about that happening. And this may be happening in Italy next week as well.
All right, before we talk about Italy, you just got to give us a little perspective, because we crunched some numbers. If you look at the GDP of Greece versus the GDP of, and I know you know these numbers probably by heart, but look at that, 2.5 trillion, that's the GDP of Germany. Again, approximately, look at Greece, 0.2 trillion. I mean, it's a tenth of, all this talk, all this angst, the markets have been held hostage by Greece for so long, and yet it's so small. Why does it matter so much?
It matters for contagion and as a precedent. It matters. First, Greece matters because it's been a black hole of money. And so the EU has 440 billion of resources. They put 100 in. They're putting another 130 in. It's really just sucking the money out of the rest of the EU. If they kind of ring-fence Greece and say, okay, well, Greece, you're getting no more money, then what matters at that point becomes whether Greece sets a precedent with a disorderly default and you have contagion onto other markets, onto Italian markets or so on, or whether they can manage the Greek resolution in an orderly process and kind of keep things stable for the rest of Europe and for Italy mainly.
All right, talk to me about Italy.
Yeah. Well, Italy has been is the big kahuna. And it used to be Spain, and Spain, has not been under market pressure. They've implemented a lot of reforms over the last year, and people are much more concerned about Italy, Italy's growth, Italy's debt overhang. Spain is cyclical. Italy is kind of structural, and most importantly, Italy also has a very sclerotic kind of political system now with Berlusconi, where Berlusconi has become kind of the biggest impediment to reform in Italy, and the Italians know it, the EU leaders know it, and so every time he comes and every time he promises that they're going to deliver on something, he goes back. He doesn't have the support of his own party. He can't implement it. He doesn't want to implement half of it, and so they've completely lost the confidence of the market. Italy has been able to fund itself in the past, so it's not a question of the numbers in and of themselves. Under a better market environment, the Italians can buy their own government bonds, and kind of you have this thing going like you have in Japan, where you have this big overhang in debt. under these conditions with the run on markets, you need to have confidence restored. And this is where we're getting to a really interesting stage. You have all these spreads blowing out. You have all this, tumultuous markets, and it's bringing things to a head on a political level. You are now having Papandreou fall, and now it's bringing things to a head in Italy, where kind of the knives are out to get Berlusconi. They've been out before plenty of times. He's managed to survive. I don't think he's going to survive next week.
All right, you've said 100% odds that Papandreou's out. What are the odds for Berlusconi?
I'd say 80% odds that he's gone by next week. There's a vote on Tuesday, which is on a budgetary bill, which is really kind of insignificant, but it does end up becoming a sort of a symbolic vote, a vote of no confidence. He's lost the support of his own party at this time, and he's coming back humiliated yet again from Cannes. From the EU ministers, he has to bring he's supposedly inviting the IMF in to monitor Italy's books. You don't usually invite people in to monitor your books. This was forced upon him.
All right. Speaking of monitoring, President Obama at the G20, what is his role here?
His role is a backup support role. He has. Obviously, it's in the U.S. interest to see a resolution of the European problem. It's given our problems here, Obama doesn't have sort of a blank check to write for it, and Geithner made that clear to the Europeans. Geithner went on a much more technical mission, saying, "Hey, why don't you do this and that with the EFSF?" Most of that has been shot down at this point. Obama is there really in the context of the IMF and the rest of the world, and look, you Europeans get your act together, and then we're going to be sort of the backstop that kind of sort of helps, with this IMF SDR lines and so on. But it's a limited sort of backstop and assistance.
So
here.
Obama in Europe to say, we are here, we support you, but you guys figure it out, and it's your dime.
Yeah, essentially.
All right, yeah. Sassan Ghahramani, thanks for joining us. Always great to have. We will check in to see if you are 3 for 3 this week.